sometimes we misinterpret what sex education actually means, and it's considered as this big taboo because I'm assuming that people think that it's about teaching children about only penetrative sex, and there's a time and place to teach them about the reproductive system, or it's going to corrupt their minds because they're going to know what sex is like, and that's going to ignite a desire to have sex within them. Sex education, if we look at it just from that lens, can be extremely reductionary.
If there's one thing the controversial boys' locker room case has done, it is kickstarting a conversation about the need for better sex education in schools, talking about and explaining how consent works, and most importantly, creating a safe space for teenagers to talk. We spoke to behavioral health researcher and trauma therapist Ruchita Chandrasekhar to talk about the changes society needs to make going forward.
We need to recognize that this is a highly vulnerable population. These are developing brains, these are growing children, which makes them extremely vulnerable. This is also a very hyper-connected generation, which means they already have access to information, especially with the internet and with their peers. And it's already normalized that sex is going to be a taboo subject. We can't ask these questions at home or to our teachers because they might have punitive measures. So they're going to reach out to the internet, they're going to reach out to their friends to have these conversations, which can be potentially dangerous. I think it is beneficial in developing a trustworthy relationship, a good rapport with teenagers, so they know that they're allowed to ask these questions at home. They're allowed to ask doubts about their bodies, about their relationships to others, about attraction, consent, about sex, about a host of different things that are usually in societal terms considered as a taboo, because then what happens is it also reduces the risk for underreporting of sexual violence. It helps them develop a language on what is consensual, what is not consensual, what is okay, what is not okay, what is age appropriate and what is not age appropriate, and can overall help in addressing violence as a structural issue over like providing band-aid issues to crises as they come along. Children have very impressionable minds, teenagers have very impressionable minds, and what they're exposed to can often impact what they internalize about relational dynamics and, more importantly, about different forms of violence. So young folks learn from watching how their parents treat each other, how their uncles sit together and talk about women, how their aunts sit and talk about someone else, or different kind of even behavioral dynamics that they see when it comes to group family functions, how one sibling is treated differently over another because of gender dynamics, which teaches them concepts about respect, privilege, entitlement, shame, and guilt, depending on what they've been exposed to. We need to recognize that violence is a structural issue, and this has been translating in different forms across generations. Previous generations engaged in these forms of violence in different ways. This generation, with the kind of access to resources that they have, engages in this violence in different ways. Rape culture tends to affect young boys differently, young girls differently, young trans folks differently, and young non-binary folks differently. The common denominator is that it affects all of them. And the one way in which we can start managing this, we can start talking about rehabilitative measures, education, resources, reformative measures, and what restorative justice looks like, is in developing good channels of communication and in talking to the teenagers. It is important to talk to them and establish a rapport to know what they're exposed to in different environments, because the home environment, the school environment, other primary environments that they're a part of, tuition classes, who they play sports with, who they're interacting with online, if they're having any online friends, multiple environments and what they're exposed to is going to be formative in the kind of experiences that they have. And it is important for them to know that there are constants in their life that they can come to for the purpose of social support. I think what's problematic also is that we keep raising generations that are afraid of consequences and are constantly contemplating on how they can escape consequences over trying to reflect their actions, because there aren't enough safe spaces for them to process what is happening, to recognize what is going wrong, and to genuinely reflect sincerely and see what they can do differently to protect themselves and to be aware of the impact of their actions. Sex education is something that can help young folks establish a relationship not only to their bodies, but in also helping them recognize what their relationship is to other people's bodies, what it means to have respect, what it means, what is the role of discrimination and marginalization when it comes to sex and sexual activity, and also sexual violence, what it means to recognize child sexual abuse, what is consensual and non-consensual activity, and when it is okay to say no, and why is it important to have ownership over their bodies. It can be wholesome. Good sex education can be about all of these concepts that can also help in personality development and be very formative in who young folks grow up to be as adults.